Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Waters. I'm from GameSpot.com and here to host the 7th semi-annual Firaxis Mega Panel. Thank you all for coming. We have got some great games to talk about today and some great folks to talk about them. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it down the line and have these gentlemen introduce themselves to you.
I'm Greg Foertsch. I'm the art director on XCOM 2.
That was so demure, the way you said that. Hi, I'm Greg Foertsch, art director. I'm Jake Solomon. I'm the creative director of XCOM 2.
I'm Will Miller. I'm the co-lead designer of Beyond Earth.
I'm David McDonough. I'm the other co-lead designer of Beyond Earth.
All right, so on the table we've got XCOM 2, we've got Civilization Beyond Earth Rising Tide, and one's a sequel, one's an expansion pack, and there's like, or is expansion pack even what people say anymore? Expansion, probably just suffice. They're a little different.
Just drop the pack. It's
Huh?
just, the cool people say expansion.
Yeah.
X-Pack, actually, if you want to be
X-Pack.
real cool.
No,
yeah.
not that cool. Definitely not that cool. They're different in nature. You know, when you're building a sequel, when you're building an expansion to a game, you kind of have a different approach. You've got a different, the audience expectation is different, and maybe the opportunities are different for development. So I'll toss to Will and David first to talk about Rising Tide, and how does your approach to designing an expansion differ from your approach to designing another kind of game?
Well, Civilization has always had really excellent expansions. We deliver a lot of value with our expansions. They tend to target very specific parts of our games. And when we make an expansion, it's an opportunity for us to step back, take stock, and look at how we can make the experience better, how we can deepen the experience for our audience. Rising Tide, though, is a little bit different. We actually looked at what XCOM did with Enemy Within, which really changed the entire experience of XCOM, right? It wasn't just the middle game, it wasn't the late game, it was the whole thing. And so Rising Tide approaches Beyond Earth from that perspective. We wanted to change the entire experience and flesh out what we had set down in the base game. So the new diplomacy system, water gameplay, hybrid affinities, expanded quests, all of these things are sort of game-wide features. So if you get this expansion, you're going to expect to see a lot of new stuff.
Which we will look at right now. So one of the big things we're excited to show today at the panel is some of the things coming up for hybrid affinities. You may remember affinity as being a sort of a new idea for Beyond Earth, a big idea that represents kind of the evolving futuristic identity of your Civ and how you're going to challenge tackle the challenges of the future. And it drove a lot of things in the game, but most especially it drove military. It drove the way your military diversified. And so the hybrid affinities were designed to do more or less the same things, but give you new ways of tackling old problems and also new powers that you never saw before in the game. So that when you build your hybrid army, your military can function in a way that no Civ army ever has, and it becomes a lot more personal, a lot more customized, a lot more specific. So this one we're looking at right now, the Golem, is one of the Purity Supremacy crossover unique units. The sort of the ideological angle for Purity Supremacy is blending the kind of like ascendancy of man idea of purity with the sentient robotics of supremacy, but instead of going all one way or the other, they adopt sort of like a master-servant, human overlords and servant robots. So the Golem is they're giant. It's a huge walking siege wall that can block ranged attacks.
It's actually cute.
Very cute.
One of those things rolling around your apartment?
Yeah. So it deploys into this like wall, this fortress mode that can block ranged attacks, a good attack of its own. And so it represents kind of like what the hybrid units. They're not necessarily replacements for your core military, but they're augmentations. Like if you put this in your army, you're definitely making it sort of a siege army, or you're making it about this or about that. The Immortal is one of the sort of the mid-level ones for Purity Harmony. And they take the blend of, once again, the Purity's emphasis on humanity with Harmony's genetic modification to engineer superhumans, like things that are way beyond what any human being could do before, and like start to fuse technology with the human genome. So they have these sort of like kind of like impossibly proportioned, angelic-looking, like flawless-looking humans, but merged with their gear. They're all one thing. They have like bioorganic armor. They're holistic beings. It's pretty weird. So this is like a shock troop. They ignore terrain penalties. They do a lot of other cool things. So you would use this. You'd have fewer of these in your army, but each one is individually more powerful. So you're like focusing the way your army fights by concentrating the enemy's attention on the immortals who can absorb a lot of damage, so you can whittle them down. So it really shows like what we wanted to do with the hybrid affinities was not just take an average of the two either side. Like supremacy plus purity doesn't equal like supremacy purity, which is just sort of both kind of taken down a little bit of both. We really looked at the hybrids as new identities in and of themselves, equivalent to the original affinities in how they approach the world, like what they're really about, how they take these ideas about what humanity could become and make them their own. This was a supremacy harmony blend. So there have the robotics plus the like organic military to create these kind of cyborgs, pretty much. Like the art angle and sort of attitude that we took through for this hybrid was imagine the Predator. And so all of their units are kind of based on that, like modifications of what is the Predator. It's sort of this bioengineered like cyborg thing. And this unit, the Aquilon, is sort of an air carrier. It's the first air carrier in Civ, and so it supports aircraft, but it also has like long-range bombard, and it's this like halfway living thing, so it's very resilient. The direction we gave to the concept art for this thing was, all right, imagine a meat zeppelin. Sure enough, that's
Oddly enough, not the first time that phrase has been uttered at Firaxis. I don't know what that means.
You knew just what I meant.
Right.
So the Aquilon is their ultimate. Like I said, it's a carrier unit and a long-range bombard unit, and it hovers above the terrain, so it's extremely agile, gross, which is very much the Harmony way.
It looks sticky.
It's the sound design for this is phenomenal. I can only describe. So the crossover here, Supremacy Harmony, is about like they're sort of power by any means. Like there's power to be gained in robotics and machinery. There's power to be had in biomechanics. Why not take both? Why have to pick one or the other? We're gonna absorb all of the possible potential power that we think we have. So hybrid affinities change what the original affinities mean. Like you can imagine how these things in your army would change how you would use your core affinity troops. They change how you play every part of army development. And that's what Will meant when he was talking about enemy within. Like even the things that are old are made new by the addition of the hybrid affinities and these alternative options that can change the value or change the timing or the purpose of even the original content. And then of course the new content and stuff like this.
And I think the expansions give us an opportunity to really question not just not just the content that's in the game, but also the design of our systems from a very fundamental level. So the water gameplay, for example, in the expansion, we sort of questioned what the purpose of a city was. Cities are these power centers in your game. They're sort of the engine of your civilization. And how do we knew we wanted water cities, but we weren't really sure how we wanted them to work. We wanted them to be mechanically distinct, but not too different that you'd have to learn different sets of rules. And I think it was sort of, it coalesced out of the firmament that they would move. We had a producer that came up with it, and QA came up with it, and Dave came up with it all in the same day. We said, all right, we're going to do that. We're seeing some B-roll now of the lineup of all of the new the hybrid units. And as David mentioned earlier, they're not just averages in terms of the visual style of the units we introduced in the base game. They really are unique, and they're a great augmentation to your.
And I like this because this is like a to the death tournament of all your hybrids, right? That's basically what we're watching.
Marketing has a good time putting it together.
So one of the things we were talking about for this panel, like how to explain what makes Rise of Light different than base BE. And the phrase that keeps coming up, I think was mentioned already, is the idea of breaking that part of the fun of making an expansion is going back to things that you treasure a lot about the base game. Like the affinities are really a core mechanic of the base game. They drive so much of the progression, they're really integral to how the player plays. They're a source of player investment. Players really get into wanting to be the wanting the power that is there to be had in Security Civ. people resonate with these things really strongly. And as soon as we get the opportunity to make the expansion, the first thing we say is, all right, how do we break all those rules? We have to understand what's making this resonant to players and find ways to make it more resonant, or find ways to change so that everything, like I was saying before, everything that's old is new again. If you take the sort of the landscape that you so carefully laid in the base game, the power and the fun of making an expansion is upending it. So, I mean, that's where even the title of our expansion, like references to our effort, our interest in like raising the stakes, changing the meaning of everything that used to be, adding so much to the game that nothing can be taken for granted again anymore. That's the fun of making an expansion for a game like Civ, and that's what Rising Tide is.
You guys put the cities on the ocean.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's a pretty
definitely.
good summation right there.
I mean, it's fascinating the way that it takes that base, the fact that a city is so crucial to your identity as a civilization and to your strategy, and like, hey, it's like move that around. What if we could just push that thing around the water? Like the design challenges and sort of prospects of taking that fundamental unit and putting it out there must have been a big move.
Yeah, you can actually see here in the screenshot sort of the sequence of moving a city. And you have to spend production to do this, so moving a city costs production. You can't build another unit in that city while it's moving. It takes a few turns. So it's an interesting choice. And this is the only way that aquatic cities acquire territory. So do I move the city to get more territory, or do I use the city to build new units and new buildings? Those kinds of awesome risk-reward, interesting decision moments are what we want to create in a game like Civ. And it's cool because you sort of paint your culture border now on the water, and you can paint over other people's, which is pretty neat. So it's a different kind of territorial acquisition problem than you're having to do on land. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and it can get pretty interesting, especially in multiplayer. Mm-hmm. Like you can kind of grief each other, painting over your territory.
Yeah, have you had some sort of stunt wars of what different pictures you can draw on the ocean with your city as you move it around?
You don't want to know the pictures that we've drawn.
I think we all know, Will. Yeah. So, but when you're sort of looking at an expansion and talking about breaking the rules of your game and sort of flexing in that way, it feels like a real natural fit for an expansion that builds on that game. But that question when viewing a sequel becomes a little different, because a sequel is a different kind of project, it's a different kind of consumer proposition. So when you guys are taking a look at XCOM 2 and sort of thinking about what to leave behind, like how do you come at that as distinct from Enemy Within?
Yeah, I mean, I think the phrase, I guess, breaking the rules is a good phrase in terms of when you're going to present a sequel, you have to add value. I mean, you can't just improve everything. So you've got to add new things. You've got to improve the things that were there. And so, breaking the rules is kind of a good way to think about it. And so, we have some new things. We have some old favorites that we wanted to bring along and improve. And along those lines, like we can talk about some of the aliens that have made the transition to XCOM 2. Like we have the Muton, everybody's beloved. Well, nobody loves the Muton. Does anybody love aliens? I don't know, but everybody's hated Muton.
But you got any Muton fans in the audience?
Yeah.
There you go.
Have those people removed immediately, please. Sympathizers. Right. Oh, that's we really changed the Muton. No, that's the sectoid. So yeah, the sectoid. That's one that's a good example of breaking the rules, right? Because how do you update the sectoid? The original XCOM, they were these cute little pot-bellied gray things, and they were pretty cute. And then we kind of updated them to be little clawy bird. Yeah, I'm good at words. Clawy bird, little crouchy things in Enemy Unknown. I can speak for a fee if anybody wants. But yeah, I mean, then Greg, when we started talking about the sectoid, it was one of those cases of like, okay, the sectoid, it has to be a sectoid. People expect a sectoid. We love the sectoid, but we have to think about how we're going to change them.
Yeah, I mean, that's, XCOM is built on UFO lore, and so, the sectoid, everybody knows what a little gray is. And so playing with that where you know what it is and not departing from that, but still making something new is probably one of the hardest things when we go about making a new alien. And with him in particular, it's it's incredibly difficult because he's naked. It doesn't look like he has armor.
It's true.
And so
That's awkward.
The simplest ones can sometimes be the most difficult, but he's also the place where we usually start. So when we started to approach the sectoid, we wanted to blend him with human DNA, and we wanted to do a lot of cool stuff, and so we made him bigger, a little more formidable. But again, while
And that's
he
kind
has
of a current is the blending with human DNA,
Yeah.
so you can kind of see it in a lot of our aliens.
Yeah, it kind of traces through. So now he's taller. He's like 7 foot tall. But every once in a while, he still glitches back in. Again, we kind of break the rules, but then every once in a while in his animation, he'll glitch back into a sectoid scamper. And so again, we're trying to kind of connect that stuff, but kind of still change it up a little bit. And
Right.
so-
And then when we push gameplay-wise, we want to push them. And so obviously everybody knows that sectoids, they mess with your head. And so we keep that. But in XCOM 2, the sectoids, they can mind control from the beginning. They can do a lot of things. But one of my favorite things the sectoids can do is reanimate corpses. So now they can raise. There we go. Yes. Kill your friends twice. Yeah, so that is always a great moment where they can do it to Advent soldiers. They can do it to your enemies that you kill. Then they'll raise them. They can do it to your friends who have died on the battlefield. So now, of course, the key is if you can take out the sectoid, then the zombies will fall. But it's one of those cool things that the sectoids can do. So Muton, again, we updated the Muton, a little more slender, a little more.
We actually went backwards with him. We actually wanted to kind of remove to kind of make him look more like he's blended with human. We kind of wanted to remove some of the crazy bulk of the armor to kind of make him look a little more articulated like a human. And so we actually went a little bit backwards, like originally XCOM, and made him a little bit more skin-tight green outfit. But we really wanted to push his scale, so he is a lot larger than the one in EU as well, and a little bit more muscular.
Yeah, and gameplay-wise, we decided to give them Mutons now. They have a lot of abilities, but one of the new abilities is their melee attack. And in addition to a melee attack, so they like to angle to get up close to you. They're armored, so they can last a long time. So then they like to angle up close to the soldiers, and then they'll get in there and melee. And they also, if you try to melee them, it'll show it has a counter attack. So they are very deadly. Yes, that was a sequence of brutality.
Yeah.
Everyone's favorite.
Right.
Oh, it gets better soon.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
How do you improve upon the chrysalid? Improve in quotation marks. Yes.
And this is one that's pretty cool because we've talked a lot about chrysalid, but nobody's seen the chrysalid.
Right.
So from X2. So
Yeah.
this is going to be kind of fun.
Obviously, you make them a little more metal. You give them bigger spikes. Yeah, but with this one, art-wise, we really like the look we had, and so we just kind of exaggerated a little bit
We
for
wanted
X2.
to, push the points on and make him feel a little more poisonous, and so
Yeah.
there
Toxic.
it is.
Now, this is the great thing about the chrysalid gameplay-wise, is that now the chrysalid can burrow into the ground and become basically invisible. So, yeah, it's like the worst proximity mine you can imagine. See, look at them. They're invisible, can't see them, and then you get too close and, out they come. Yeah.
Why would that be scary?
All right, and then they'll cocoon your soldiers, and out of the cocoon will spring 3 chrysalids. So,
Real gross.
obviously, I've made a good decision. Your tears are like candy to me.
Got a real vicious streak in you guys.
Yes. Right, the Berserker, and again, this is another one that we've updated. So she's huge. We really wanted to push her. She was close to the Muton before in Enemy Unknown, and we wanted her to be her own character. And so she's massive. She's really, really big.
Yeah, the Muton in X2 is significantly bigger, and the Berserker is really, really big. And She is terrifying, absolutely terrifying.
And you see the ports on her where she gets all her juice. We always like to think she's just roided out there.
And again, we wanted to strip her down a little bit in the sense of you could see her body, you could see some of the human elements. We wanted to see a little more of what was under the armor. And so we've kind of retained, her, the size, pushed the size, but her skin is really her armor. And those red warm areas are more like rhino skin, and she's got these ports where, she's been roided up or something. But to really, really push her as far as we could.
Yeah, and gameplay-wise, so the Berserker has the ability to get enraged. And when that happens, she can move really far, do a lot of damage. And the best thing is that devastating punch there, and that's all gameplay. So she will do that to anybody if they get too close. So if the Advent soldiers get too close to an enraged Berserker, she'll take them out too. Like, she just is in a blind rage. So anything that gets too close. So you can actually play around with her and get her to attack the Advent. And so speaking of the Advent, so now we're going to show, wait, what's first? Is it a new one yet? Are we showing the new one?
Nope.
No, not the new one yet. New things are coming. So, and this we have shown is the Advent mech, of which there are a couple levels. So this is a level 2. This is
Yep.
right.
And we've only shown shooting. We haven't shown actually some of the coolness of this character. So.
Right, and so the mechs, insult to injury, the Advent, they have developed their own mechs here, and they are very armored up. They're very hard to take down. Art-wise, you want to say anything about them?
Yeah, we just wanted to really kind of make them feel very mechanical, very robotic. Give them something that remove some of a lot of the Advent stuff. A lot of the characters are a little softer in some ways, and this one has just a very different feel.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Complete robot, and the mech's ability is a micro missile attack. And so the mech can devastate a wide area, take the cover away, and then the Advent support troops can then attack the XCOM units without cover. And here we go. So the Stun Lancer, I love the Stun Lancer. So this is we've never shown the Stun Lancer before. So PAX exclusive. The Stun Lancer is awesome. So she is a complete psycho. He and she, all Advent are both genders. But so no, I don't mean individuals. They're both genders. I mean
This one
they're
is a
both
male.
male and female Advent. All Advent can be male and female. They're not like frogs or anything. So is that even true? I don't even think that's scientifically true. So whatever, aliens. That's what I know. So. Yeah, so the Stun Lancer is awesome. So when you see a Stun Lancer, they are psychos, and they will ignore everything to melee. So we don't want melee just to be the role of the Ranger class. The Stun Lancer is a sword-wielding, an electric sword-wielding Advent trooper. So they get close, and then they will ignore everything to get close to a soldier. They'll sacrifice themselves to do it, and they run really far. So when you're already in trouble, and then they have the ability to, if you're lucky, stun you a little bit, but if you're unlucky, they can knock your soldiers unconscious. So, yeah, they're awesome. The Stun Lancer is awesome.
How exactly do you mean awesome? I don't find them awesome.
Well, I mean, in theory, they're awesome.
They're terrifying.
Right.
I hate those things.
If they're on your side, they'd be awesome. Mind control them, and they're awesome. So also new stuff is, we've talked about the Grenadier, but we haven't shown any real footage of that. And so the Grenadier is kind of evolution. This is something that we sort of evolved. This evolved from the Heavy, but they have a lot of really cool abilities. So they shoot lots of grenades. They can fire within a cone. They do a lot of really cool abilities where they can lock down areas. So they can, shoot this giant cannon in a cone. They can launch a lot of grenades. And now we have all kinds of specialized grenades, lots and lots of different kinds of grenades that the Grenadier can shoot, and they can carry a lot. So.
I didn't have any information.
Yeah, and that's good, actually. The Grenadier does a good job of showing off all the improved destruction, as you can see. Lots of new fidelity, destroying floors, ceilings, all that stuff.
It was nice of you guys to end with a little Grenadier action. It was
Yes.
looking really grim for us for a little while. As it not setting out to make anyone's life easy in XCOM 2, it seems. But when you're taking when you're sort of adding these units and evolving these units, one of the challenges you must run into is, all right, we want there to be new stuff. We want people to, but we also want it to be XCOM. We also want it to still be Civilization. How do you, the things that draw people to these games, the canon of these games, you can't, you're not just throw all that out the window, but at the same time, you need to give them something new. How do you guys, so canon can be kind of like limiting in that, you have to have certain parameters, but at the same time, it's like what makes your game. So how do you deal with that conflict, that sort of struggle?
Well, on Beyond Earth, the canon was something that we sort of wrestled with on the base game because we created a lot of it and then deliberately held it back. And now looking back, it seems like that was obviously a poor choice because it added so much to the game to bring players into that story and let them make it their own. But we wanted the story to emerge over time in the base game. So we authored systems that would bring it out, but it never quite got out far enough. So a lot of the systems that we've added in Rising Tide are really about bringing the story out a lot more. And one of the best examples of that is diplomacy in the way that the leader characters come to life.
Right, the diplomacy system in BE was the same as the diplomacy system in Civ 5, which is to say, you could make war, you could make peace, you could trade some resources, and that was about it. And one of the things that we realized
Hola.
after the game
How
was
can I help
live and
you?
people were playing was that the psychology of that system had changed. It
What's
really
the
didn't work
deal?
because we didn't have the historical canon there to support it. So we had to go back into that system and rebuild it from the ground up to be more of a platform for these characters that we created to express themselves, and for that expression to matter in your strategic play. So the diplomacy system lets you sort of build your own character over time, the personality of your character over time, which we're seeing here. You can add these traits to your character and make the traits better by spending the diplomatic capital resource, which is the sort of currency of diplomacy. And then you can also make these you can make agreements with other civs, which is a new way to trade power. And these two additions to diplomacy really make
Hello
for a
there.
much more transparent system, a more personable system.
Okay, what have you got?
See Duncan Hughes there. So it was a much better solution for us to put a game in place of what was there in Civ 5, because again we had these characters made from whole cloth that we had to give a platform to express themselves. So that's really the theory and the sort of what we wanted to accomplish with diplomacy.
Yeah, I mean, canon for us is interesting because we have, XCOM is a little more narrative, but, and so, we have characters, we have a story, and there's tension there between making a game that's replayable and making a game that has, a compelling story, which is, XCOM, it needs a story to drive it forward. And so, for us, a lot of times, obviously, the real story is about the player and the player's story that they create. And so we'll show something about that in a second. But something that's more fixed narrative, actually, we get to show for the very first time anywhere, is actually there will be an XCOM novel. I've read it. It's great. It's by Greg Keyes, who wrote The Briar King, and what it does is it's sort of it's a prequel to XCOM 2, and so it's sort of sits between them, and it's cool. It's got a lot of old characters and new characters, and there's something really neat about seeing characters and they're fictionalized, and it was really cool.
And being able to push 20 years in the future, like XCOM 2 is, it allows us to take some freedoms that, a game that picks up right after the last one would be a little more difficult. I think we've had more openness because of that difference in time,
Right.
in the game.
Right.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want XCOM, which isn't to say that XCOM won't at points be linear, but, we want to make XCOM, and we love XCOM, we want to make as many XCOMs as we can, and so for us to untrack the narrative and sort of instead focus on the player experience and have a lot of continuity, but not necessarily be linear every time. I think that was something we wanted to try.
And it was such a common thing. I mean, so many people lost EU,
Yes.
you know, or
Right.
multiple times.
Right.
So
And yeah, and I always say and I for myself too, in the universe. So in the universes where every time you play a game of XCOM, I always think it's, you're spinning off an alternate universe. In the universes that you won, XCOM 2 never happened. Like, I don't want to take that away from people, and I don't think that the games that I won, XCOM 2 ever needed to happen. But the games that I lost, XCOM 2 is just sort of a chance to go back and say, oh, what would have happened in that world that I did lose and the council did shut down? So again, what we talk about when we talk about story, what really drives us is not necessarily the linear narrative of XCOM, but actually the character story. And so this next feature is something I'm very, very excited about. This is probably my favorite feature. So what you can do is, I did not give myself that nickname. So the character pool is something that exists outside of any single player game, in which any character that you customize is added to the pool, and then can be shared with other people. They will come back into your single player games if you want them to, and it's not just soldiers. You can mark up characters to say, this is going to be a scientist in my games, this one's a VIP, this one's a bad person that I'm going to have neutralized missions, so if you have anybody you don't particularly like, yeah.
Excuse me. I mean, we see this handsome soldier here, clearly a paragon of his type.
Right. It's uncanny. But the idea is that, we have pushed customization way further than we did in Enemy Unknown. And what we want to do is allow you to do that. And you can do it in your single player games. That's a cool thing too, is any characters you customize in a single player game, you can very quickly then, you see the button down there, save the character pool. So if you start becoming attached to a soldier and you've done some customization work, you just hit save to character pool and they're now in your pool forever. And they will show up as recruits in future games if you want them to. And the great thing is that because you can share your pools, so you can export from your character pools and you can share with your friends. So if somebody makes, I don't know, like the 80s WWE or something like that, or Star Wars characters, whatever it is, you can share those with each other. You can just import them into your character pool, and it's a really cool way for people to save the characters they've customized, dictate what scientists and engineers are in their game. And it's, I've done this, and so if you make, I've made my wife a scientist, and so she'll show up in my game as I'm playing. And let me tell you something, when someone you love shows up as a mission reward and you're trying to choose what to do, it becomes extra difficult to be like, no, I'm not going to rescue her. I'll go over here and just do this, and I need to get some supplies while my wife is in an Advent jail. But then you rescue them and they're real staff on the Avenger, and so it's everything. It's VIPs, it's bad guys, it's soldiers, and you can share them. So that's something.
This is a great dev tool too. Like, everybody on the team is in the character pool.
That's right. That's right.
And we'll go in, and every once in a while I may make Garth pink or something, and save him out a little funny, and wait till he plays and discovers that he's been changed.
Yeah, every right now we're playing with a character pool, which is all the devs, and so it's funny because you'll see the character pool is very aspirational. Like, you'll see the way that people view themselves, and you're like,
It's a little
so
scary.
sure you're that badass, but
See Dave aspiring to a sweet stash over there.
right. Dave is a weed dealer, apparently, who hangs out behind a strip club.
Is that a setting I can pick in the character pool?
Right.
Make them like an unseemly NPC that gets turned into a chrysalid.
That's right. Yeah, so the character pool is that's something that we were very excited to share with everybody. And I'm very excited to see all the pools that get made and shared with everybody. Oh, the monocle, there we go. The eye patch.
Even better.
Yeah, we have brow rings, we have face jewelry, we have all kinds of customization stuff. There's no way we could show it all, so it's really cool. And if you customize that much, that's why I had to let you guys save all that stuff. So
Anything hit the cutting room floor, like giant bunny heads? Decided, no, it's probably not going to be a program.
No, that's what's weird is that the character
Everything.
like I think I put things on there like the monocle was like a joke. I was like, I'll come back to this in 2 years and come up with something better. But they went so fast. They were like, the monocle's in, and I'm like, the monocle? That was kind of a joke, but all right. I like.
You'd be surprised at how many gameplay decisions get made like that.
Yes, yes.
Wait, we didn't take that out. We should
Right.
put that.
So
And once it's in,
right, yeah, can't take it out.
yeah. So you know, change all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yep.
It's such a cool feature.
Yep.
So,
It's nice to be able to have that, all that time you spend in that character development, because I'm sure we have all spent a lot of time crafting these characters to then have it be safe, have it, be able to come back around and
Right.
not just one-off for the given game you're playing.
I mean, it actually does serve that purpose of you make your friends, you make your family members, or you can make yourself and send it to your friends and family members. But the idea is that all that time you spend, as long as you hit the save the character pool button, will not be wasted, because you'll be like, oh, they died as a rookie, but at least you know they're saved and they can appear in your future games. So.
Very cool. We are running a little bit towards the end of the panel here, running low on time, but I think we've got a little...
Yeah, we got one more, because we love PAX, we have one more treat for you guys, just real quick. We're going to show you now.
Greetings. We have an urgent matter to address in the city formerly known as Seattle. While our efforts to recruit new operatives there have proven unusually successful, a deadly new enemy now stalks the region. Transmitting footage now. You may now resume your tactical simulation training. Good luck.
awesome.
What the hell was that thing, man?
That,
Gnarly!
yeah, that is something we call the faceless. That is a new, yeah, that's something also brand new that we've never shown anyone before. That is called the faceless.
So Rising Tide is going to be out October 9th. You can pre-order it now. XCOM 2,
Yeah.
February 5th.
February 5th, 2016.
Also, you can buy tickets for Firaxicon. Did anybody in the audience come to Firaxicon last year? One person, two people. All right, three people. This is a really great opportunity. Everybody, lots of people at the studio go to Firaxicon to interact with our fans. You get to play games before we release them. Lots of cool swag. Sid's going to be there. It's a really cool thing. If you can get tickets, they're on sale right now, and want to come to Baltimore and hang out with us, we'd love to have you there. That's October 3rd, also my birthday. So please, come celebrate with me.
So you're throwing yourself a convention.
That's right.
Shh, it's a surprise party.
Very cool. And if you folks want to get a look at all the stuff you saw here in the panel today, the video is going to be going up on GameSpot in the next week or two. You can follow me on Twitter at CTWATTERS to find out when that happens. And of course, follow XCOM and Civ on all the social medias. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for this look at your games, for delving into it with us.
Thank you.
It's going to be an exciting few months for Firaxis fans. Enjoy your bonus PAX items here and have a great show.